It seems like the list of people who knew about concerns about General Vance in your government is growing longer. We had Minister Sajjan, his chief of staff, senior advisor in your office, and now we're hearing that your closest advisor, Katie Telford, knew. Should she have told you about these concerns about the top soldier in our military?
When an allegation, a complaint concerning General Vance was brought forward to the minister, he forwarded to the appropriate authorities at the PCO to follow up on it. It is not appropriate for politicians to be the ones following up on these. The minister, my office, knew there was a complaint against General Vance. Nobody knew that it was a Me Too complaint. We did not have information on what was the nature of that complaint.
I don't know about you, but I simply do not believe him, especially when he uses that voice he uses. I feel like he's, I don't know, saying that Jody Wilson-Raybould lied and the Globe and Mail lied about the story that was of course, proved completely true about corruption. That's Trudeau on the defensive. And I don't believe a word of it. And I would ask you to compare Trudeau's treatment of Vice Admiral Mark Norman, who Trudeau regarded as a political enemy, who he had falsely prosecuted for criminal offenses until a judge finally threw it out as just too absurd. Compare the treatment of a political enemy with a political ally, General Jonathan Vance. Do you really believe that the most feminist prime minister in Canadian history did not know the charges against him? Well, I don't know what to think myself. I'm just skeptical of anything Justin Trudeau says. But joining us now to talk about this is someone who knows the system and knows the culture better than most. I'm talking about our friend T. Lee Humphrey, founder of Veterans for the Conservative Party, and he's with James International Security Consulting. Lee, it's great to see you again. It's been too long. Thanks for taking the time to be with us today.
Well, I appreciate you calling, Ezra.
Well, help me work through this, because I'm always loath to jump on a criticism of the armed forces, because I think it's beat up too easily. I think it's criticized too easily. Charges of sexism or racism ought to be taken seriously, but I think with the military, it's a punching bag. So I don't want to pile on, but it seems like there really is smoke and fire here. Am I right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Politicians love, as you say, to use the Canadian Armed Forces as a punching bag. A huge number of journalists from the mainstream media love to pile on and amplify incidents and turn them into, huge things when they're frequently not. But this is, and it's a story as old as time, where senior officers get away with committing sexual misconduct. They get away with all kinds of things when the junior ranks and junior officers are held to a very different standard. And I think we're seeing this play out at the highest possible levels at this point.
Can you give our viewers a bit of a factual update? I've read about this, but I don't know what to believe. Do we yet know the exact details of the allegations?
Well, there's two sets of allegations against General Vance. The first was an inappropriate email he sent to a corporal who is now a reservist lieutenant, where he had been requested to provide some career advice, and instead suggested that the two take a trip to a nude beach, if you will, a clothing-free environment where they could discuss her career in great detail. And then there's a second allegation, which is far more out there in that we know a great deal of detail, and that is that he had a long-running, sometimes affair, sometimes he was single, but a sexual relationship with a young junior officer, while he, being a senior officer, at times was not only in her chain of command, but was having influence either positively or negatively over her career. And that is a huge no-no in the Canadian forces. There are relationships between juniors and seniors. It happens all the time. But there can be no interaction career-wise. In other words, you don't want somebody senior either using sex or obtaining sex by promising career-enhancing moves or by punishing someone by hurting their career if they don't engage in a sexual relationship. And it's very, very clear. Vance, over a period of more than a decade, did that and fathered 2 children with the woman, which he's denied.
I read that was the allegation I read, and I thought that's a heck of a thing. I just simply don't believe most male feminists. Whenever someone says they're a male feminist, I think, well, who says that? And it's typically someone like, Harvey Weinstein, or someone who wants to, or Jean Ghomeshi, who actually got a degree in women's studies in college. I think that they say they're a male feminist to preempt people saying, well, hang on, aren't you a bit of a lech yourself? Aren't you a bit of a Lothario? And when Justin Trudeau says he's a male feminist, I think it's to cover up for things like when he groped Rose Knight in Creston, BC that time.
Well,
But
people often overcompensate for.
I think that's what it's overcompensating, and it's trying to beat you to the punch and say, well, that couldn't be me because I'm a male feminist. But Trudeau and his chief of staff, Katie Telford, claim that their feminism has imbued the entire government. In fact, in their latest budget, the word gender appears more than 700 times. So these are the folks who say they really, 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 really care. And I think they knew, but just didn't care because it was politically inconvenient for them to fix the problem. I think they knew about it, but didn't act. Is there any evidence to back up my thesis?
Yeah, I think there is. I think one of your peers at the Globe and Mail got some emails that showed directly that the Prime Minister's office, Katie Telford specifically, received emails suggesting this was sexual misconduct. So the idea that Trudeau's now claiming that nobody in his office knew it was a Me Too issue seems moot. But, Trudeau's inclination, like a 5-year-old, when you ask them if they brush their teeth before bed to automatically lie, well, I guess it served him well. I mean, he did it the day the SNC Lavalin scandal broke. He did it all through the WE scandal, and now he's doing it again. So, it's almost like he wants to set Katie Telford up as the fall person and then jump to her rescue as the hero, which is something a fake male feminist would want to do.
That's an excerpt from my daily show, The Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.